tranquility. A glimpse of mastery.
Hello and thanks for joining us for another review. This one is for the 900 Global Zen Master. Angel's layout is the same as always. It's 5 by 3.5 by 3.5. That puts the pin above the bridge for her. Mine is the same as always also, 4 3/4 by 3.5 by 3.5. That puts the pin in my ring finger, and because these are symmetric cores, the CG placement doesn't matter. Both layouts are simple, controllable, continuous. We're not really trying to go for anything specific, just very readable layouts that lets the ball reaction characteristics shine through. For the solid sanded stuff, I really like to use Reactive Scuff to maintain the cover. It takes it back to about a 3,000 or 4,000 grit finish. It freshens the surface up. It gets a super deep clean on it. Now, this ball comes out of the box at 2,000 grit, so you might need to use a pad on it if you want it back at box. 2,000 is a little too chalky for me, so I kind of like where the Reactive Scuff gets it to. So during filming, I put about 10 games on mine. This is mine over here. And so you can see where it's got some lane shine on it, but on the other side of this line, I use Reactive Scuff to kind of show you where it gets back to. Angel only put about 5 games on hers, so you can see it's still got most of the surface on it, but you can see the difference between just the extra 5 games between her ball at 5 games, my ball at 10 games, and then the other side here where the Reactive Scuff gives it that nice little sheen finish. It's still a little shiny, but again, that's kind of where I like it to. I don't like it quite this dull, so I either like lane shine or where the Reactive Scuff gets it to, depending on what I want for that particular ball. Also, we both use Turbo Quad Classic grips and Turbo Urethane thumb solids. We really like the feel of the 100% urethane in the thumb, and then Angel likes to mix and match her grips on the colors. I like using the Quad Classic Ices or the clear ones. They're kind of gummy and tacky. It feels like sticking your fingers in a couple gummy bears. Ball details are the S77 Response cover stock, so it's the same formula as the Zen. It's just solid on the Master instead of the Pearl on the Zen, and the strong symmetric Meditate core. Now, Global covers give you a semblance of their strength in the number in the cover stock name, so S77's getting up on the strong side, and it's also Global's second strongest cover stock out right now. The cover stock strength feels like it's somewhere in Insight territory, or the solid version of that cover stock would be the best frame of reference. It's really early, it's really smooth, it's really strong. The Meditate core is the same one from the Zen. It's got a 249 RG and a 051 differential in 15 pounds. It's very strong, early, and rolly. It reminds me quite a bit of the Centripetal HD core from the Sonic and the Supersonic, so I think that's why the Zen has been so popular. It's just the best of several different worlds. We're here once again at Royal Crest Lanes on the house shot. Big thanks to them for always taking care of us. Now right away, the Zen Master isn't really a house shot ball, at least not for most, but we film everything on the house shot because that's all the vast majority of people bowl on and buy balls for, and there's literally thousands of sport patterns out there, not to mention the differences rarely show up on video that well, but I digress. So the Zen Master is strong. It's just dumb strong, but it's also really smooth. People often mistake shape or visible ball motion for hook, and that's not what it actually is. The ZM is getting traction super early, and with it being at 2,000, it actually has less surface area in contact with the lane when it hits the dry boards than a shiny ball does, and that's part of the idea. It's like a snow tire, so it's getting more traction through the oil, but less on the dry than a shiny ball would, so there's more traction and more control. Shiny balls are like racing slicks. They hydroplane on the oil and then really go on the friction. That's a big part of why stronger sanded balls are a lot smoother and sometimes seem like they're weaker than shiny balls because the shiny ones cover a lot more ground a lot faster when they hit friction. This is definitely an earlier and smoother Zen, rolls just like it, but I think it's earlier and smoother than people are going to expect. The Zen is the house shot killer, and this one is going to be insanely good on tough stuff. It's very phase 2 and idle-like, so that's how you need to treat it or think of it. I think it's even a bit earlier and smoother than the phase 2 for us, but it's definitely in that zone. Comparing it to the original Zen, the Zen has a lot easier length and a lot more pop. It's not quite the extreme difference that the phase 2 and phase 3 are, but it's close. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the Zen is just the best of several different worlds. It's got length, but it's not too long. It hooks, but it's not too strong. It's responsive, but not too sharp. It's just a crazy versatile ball that fits a lot of people's games in a lot of situations. It's strong enough that you don't necessarily have to break the shine on it. We've seen a lot of the pros throwing it, and most of the time you have to break the shine to make something a little bit more consistent, but I think the shine actually helps in this case with as strong of a ball as it is. On the other side of the lane, mine's a touch smoother for me than Angel's is, but my speed's a little higher. It's a really smooth and blendy ball that's, again, squarely in Phase 2 territory. I think it's a bit stronger and a bit smoother. It definitely rolls a bit heavier, but realistically the difference is pretty small. There aren't a lot of nuances to talk about here. The ball reaction's pretty straightforward. It hooks a lot and it's really smooth. Now, like I said earlier though, hook isn't about covering boards, it's about getting traction through the oil. It's going to start reading and digging earlier, and because it's doing that, it's not going to react as sharply at the end of the pattern because the relationship of the ball and the lane hasn't changed that much. There's oil earlier that the ball is partially digging through, and then once you remove the oil or get to the dry, the ball goes from getting some traction to getting more traction. A shiny ball is going to get very little to no traction in the oil and then really respond to the dry because it's been gliding and then has even more surface area available to contact the lane. This makes the Zen Master a great complement to the Zen, specifically because now you have two balls that roll very similar, but that are more suited for different situations or circumstances. If the Zen Master is a great look on a fresh sport condition, but begins to start hooking too early, too much, or both once the lanes start transitioning, the Zen gives you that same basic look or reaction, but that's not as strong and not as early, so it's a great step down. Speaking of a great step down, we both have the Zen as a step down in hook, but more like a step and a half up in terms of shape. It's quite a bit sharper and longer than the Master, but again, you can see the familiar ball motion, and the Zen still is one of the stronger shiny balls we've thrown, so as you add volume to the lane, the Zen's overall strength isn't going to drop off quite as much as more responsive covers, because it doesn't depend as much on friction for ball motion. Also, a simple solution to bring them closer together is to just knock the shine off the Zen. I think most people do that anyway. The Master for me was better from straighter angles, but again, that's kind of the idea. Early and smooth for traction and control on tougher patterns, and then once you build a bumper outside, that's when the shiny ball comes in to use that friction just like you would on a house shot once you have that burn and those dry boards to work with. For ratings, like I said, it's solidly in Phase 2 territory, but I think even a bit stronger and earlier, so approaching Axiom strength and length, but a bit slower. So the Zen Master gets a 9 for hook potential, a 4 for length, and a 4 for backhand. The Master should be to most sport patterns what the Zen is to most league patterns, very usable and forgiving for the majority of people. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.
Embrace tranquility.